Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Creative Collaboration Show. I'm Chuck Anderson, your host, and this is our show for big impact entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs and coaches and consultants and service providers that are on a mission not only to make money in their business, but to make a big impact in the lives of people and their businesses and really the world. And, one unique thing about our community is that we want to see the world be a better place, and we do that through the work that we do. Now, today's guest is someone who I've known for about 10 years. We met in a very unique way. If you've ever felt like you were just in the right place at the right time, that is where I met this individual. And we're going to be talking about something very important, because along the way on this journey and making the big impact, sometimes we feel stuck and we need a breakthrough, or our clients need a breakthrough. And that is what we're going to talk about today. So my guest is Patrick Dominguez. This is what he specializes in, is helping big impact entrepreneurs with their own breakthroughs, but also to pass those breakthroughs along to their clients. And just all around great guy. I met him back in 2015 when he was the co-founder of The Big Shift with Bill Barron, and they were, I think, a $5 million company at the time. And it was so funny because I was at a marketing conference. I was going up. There was nobody around. It was a ghost town. I was going up one escalator. He was coming down the other. I asked him for directions, and then we became friends. We went for lunch, and here we are 10 years later, Patrick, on a podcast. So glad to have you here.
So good to be with you here today, Chuck, and hello, everybody in the audience today.
Yeah, this is a really important topic, and I know that this is something that, going all the way back to when I first met you, this is the work that you have been doing, is helping entrepreneurs who are on this mission to make a big impact, to build and grow their businesses. But really, how do you create breakthroughs in your client's business? But sometimes you're in need of your own breakthrough. And I think I'm very excited to dive deep into this topic. And a great place to start, Patrick, I did the very light introduction. Maybe share your story with everyone here, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds great. So this topic of wanting to accomplish something in your life and feeling stuck is something that I have intimate knowledge with. It actually started when I decided to leave the corporate world, the world of bigger business, and to put up my shingle as a coach. And it was 2007. I was living in San Francisco, and I decided I just need a totally different direction from what I've been doing. And I wanted to be more hands-on working with people. And so I put up my shingle as a coach. And even though I had had 5 previous positions as a director of marketing for different companies, when it came to marketing myself as a coach, I was super stuck. And the big reason was I had this paralyzing fear of public speaking. I managed to kind of skate by in the world of bigger businesses because I was mostly not presenting to strangers, mostly like a small project team or whatnot. But when it came to being out in public, networking, or any kind of speaking, I would just be paralyzed with fear and just avoid it massively. Even being at a networking event, doing a 15-second intro, I'd be dripping with sweat and like practically panicking. And so, of course, the conventional wisdom is, if you're launching your coaching business, is get in front of people, network, speak, put yourself out there. And I just had this like deep fear of doing all those things. And so my first year in business as a coach, Chuck, I was barely bringing in any clients because I was just so afraid of getting in front of people. And since that time, I've seen that's actually common with a lot of coaches and other practitioners. And so when I started to get really clear, like, okay, I'm getting in my own way here, I started seeing different coaches, different practitioners to try to help me with this fear. And so much of the support I got was either mindset, fake it till you make it, or show up as the 6-figure coach and so forth, or accountability, a lot of powerful coaching tools, but they just didn't make the fear go away. Right. And therefore I was avoiding marketing myself. And so one day I met this brilliant magician who actually helped me go to the fear itself and then basically make that fear go away in a very healthy sort of way. And then I had a speaking engagement. In fact, I really didn't have any speaking engagements because I was avoiding them, but I had one that came up after this with 120 people in the room. And I got on stage and it was surreal, Chuck, because I felt so comfortable, so relaxed. It was like being at a party. And after that talk, people came up to me and said, "Hey, how did you learn how to be a public speaker?" And it was the weirdest thing, but just this really deep transformation had happened. And so afterwards, I just thought, okay, that's life changing. And I went on to speak quite a bit. And I think you may know about this, but ended up with my business partner, Bill Barron. We spoke on lots of big stages and we started having our own events with hundreds of people. So it was a game changer for business. It was also just a game changer, I think, for my own inner liberation, going from someone who's kind of afraid of people, including groups of people, to being comfortable with people, empowered, to support people. And so after that experience, I got fascinated. I wanted to know, so how did that person do something that all these other coaches and other practitioners weren't able to do? So I went to study with him. I went to study NLP. And then I just started to see, oh, working with the inner stuff instead of trying to work around it or avoid it was having huge changes in my life. I started working on my relationship stuff and the ways I was avoiding fear of losing love in a relationship. I started working with health stuff like resisting exercise and so forth. All the inner stuff I just started working on with my tools and just saw so many like amazing transformations and results in my life.
Wow. I can relate to so much of that story, Patrick. I mean, especially the part of not being able to stand up and promote yourself, the fear of being on stage. It was a lot of people don't believe me because they see me on stage talking a lot, but I was very introverted when I first started. I was a former computer programmer where I just worked in a closet all day long. And then when I first got invited to speak, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I would literally wake up in cold sweats with that. So I can relate to a lot of that through my own journeys of breakthrough on that to now where I thrive on being on stage. I thrive in being in those situations. I crave it, right? And that's the exact opposite of how it was 20 plus years ago, probably 25 now. So amazing. So let's talk about a little bit about what you're doing now in terms of the work that you're doing and who you're serving.
Yeah, so I'm currently working with coaches, holistic practitioners, healers, other types of practitioners, people who mostly work with other clients one on one or in groups, helping clients create some sort of positive change in their lives, in their business and their health, their relationships, and so forth. And so I'm training practitioners, coaches, healers, holistic practitioners, etc., in tools to be able to help their clients break through any sort of inner resistance. And then oftentimes people come to me because they're wanting to shift their own inner resistance. And the reason why this is so important is anytime someone's working towards a new goal, something they haven't done before, like, and a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs. So mostly I'm working with people on business goals, right? So they're wanting to grow their business, they're wanting to grow their income, their impact, and so forth. Anytime you're working towards something new you haven't accomplished before, automatically there's resistance that goes along with it. So there's goal and there's resistance. They go together. It's like the yin and the yang. Okay. And so a lot of people are so focused on the goal, they're ignoring the fact that there's actually a lot of resistance there. And as they're working towards the goal or not working towards the goal, it's kind of like this resistance is this invisible elephant in the room that oftentimes the people I'm working with are not aware of. And perhaps the coaches or other practitioners they're working with are not aware of as well. And so I'm kind of on a mission to say, hey, right now, 90 plus percent of coaching is focused on the external, right? What are your goals? What are your action steps? What are your accountability structures and so forth? All very important, but it's missing the other half, which is what is going on the inside. And I remember years ago listening to these tapes from Tony Robbins, where Tony Robbins said that 80% of success is our inner psychology. And at the time, I massively poo pooed that. I thought, well, what about the strategies? What about the actions? Isn't it taking action the main thing that matters? But then when I got completely stopped by my own inner psychology, right? My fear of being seen, my fear of public speaking, then I saw when you're completely stopped by something on the inside, that's the main thing to focus on in the moment, not the thing to avoid.
Yeah, that's very, very powerful. And it's not always easy to see on our own, and I think that's definitely the power of having a coach and having that opportunity to have a look. Let's look under the hood. Let's see what's going on here. That's really the cause. Because, and to your point, so many of us are looking for the new tactic and the strategy, and how do I become 10 times more productive than I am now? And sometimes, a lot of times actually, that's the wrong question, or we look in the wrong direction to be able to achieve that. Now, what are you hearing when people come into your world? What's the conversation? Are they talking to you more from the perspective of helping their clients with their breakthroughs, or are they coming you directly going, hey, I have this issue, I need this help? What's the journey there? How does that conversation usually go?
Yeah. So, well, I want to tell a little story that kind of really just was enlightening for me.
Mhm.
So, back when I was running the business, The Big Shift, together with my business partner, Bill, we had over 100 clients in a year-long coaching program with us, and we had hundreds of clients in smaller programs with us. And when you're working at that sort of scale, you just can't miss the number of people who are not taking action, right? And who are not getting results. I remember just being frustrated by, like, how could so many people be investing $1,000, over $10,000, and not taking action? And so I was coaching a bunch of people in our programs, and so I just noticed a lot of people had a fear of being visible, right? Or a lot of people had money blocks, right? People with money are bad, or if I make too much money, I'm gonna lose the love of my family, for example. And so I just heard all these things came up, and I had this one client who came to the very first session with me. He told me, he said, Patrick, one thing you need to know about me is I'm a self-sabotager. And I didn't even know what he was talking about, you know, because I'd come from the business world where, people, you don't really have a lot of that sort of self-sabotage because you wouldn't really have a job, after a few months if you weren't taking action, right? So he told me he was a self-sabotager, and I said, "What do you mean by that?" And then he told me, and I realized I don't have the tools to help this person. I really don't know what to do with this sabotage. The only thing I knew how to do was a lot of the conventional coaching stuff. And so after encountering a number of people who were really stuck in some sort of way, I decided to go on a quest to figure out, how do I help these people as much as I can help people with things like clarifying their niche and clarifying their premium packages and helping them with their sales conversations and so forth. And so I did. I spent 10 years learning some of the top healing modalities. I got certified in 5 trauma healing modalities, some of the greatest tools for transformation in the world. I learned 100 different healing techniques, and I basically took a lot of what I learned from the world of healing and sort of shaped it so that it works really well in the world of coaching. And so one of my mantras now is that healing is a new coaching, and that you can bring tools from the healing world, integrate them into coaching so that you're working with clients not only on the outer stuff, but the inner stuff. Okay. And so one of the things I've just started noticing, you were asking me, what am I noticing when people are coming to me? Well, even back then, when people were coming for business coaching, just I noticed in the first consultation or the first few sessions, so many clients would say, "Oh, I think I'm getting in my own way," or, "Oh, I think I'm hitting an inner ceiling," or I'm upper limiting, or I'm feeling really stuck, or I just can't seem to get clear. And those are all different ways of saying there's something going on inside where I'm resisting, I'm avoiding moving forward or getting clear in my business. And so what I used to do early on in my coaching career was try to move around that. Okay, you're procrastinating. Great. Well, let's just talk about your goals and your actions and kind of hope that we could get people motivated by their vision and their goals, and then that would counterbalance any sort of inner resistance. And for some people who are like super driven and so forth, that can work pretty well. But for a lot of clients, when there is that more deep seated fear, and there's actually other sources of resistance too. We could talk about that later if you like. But when there's a real deep unconscious driver, and oftentimes it's a protective energy, right? I'm going to avoid being visible out of protection, for example. I'm going to avoid offering my services out of protecting myself from rejection, for example. So when there are these deep unconscious protective mechanisms trying to protect us from the very things we're wanting to accomplish in our business, trying to go around them is the hard way. And that's what I did a lot as a coach, because that client ends up having this inner conflict or this inner battle. Part of them wants to move forward towards their goals, but part of them wants to keep them safe and sort of in the same place. And so you see clients come in oftentimes who tell me, like, and I'm sure you've seen this, Chuck, too, where they're saying, man, I'm working so hard right now, but not getting anywhere. And it's because they are working a lot, but they're putting their foot on the gas pedal and on the brake at the same time. So it feels like a lot of work, a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, and sometimes not very much progress. And so ideally, what we want to do as a coach or a healer, a holistic practitioner working with people is help people take their foot off the brake. Okay. Because if you think about it, if you have 100 units of energy or life force you can put into your business, your work, your mission, and 50%, let's say 50 of those units you're putting into moving forward, but 50 of those units you're putting into staying in the same place, well, then a lot of your energy is going out, but not resulting in movement.
Wow, that is extremely powerful. And what's the level of awareness do you think that entrepreneurs have that they're even doing that?
I think the awareness is a lot lower than it needs to be, because oftentimes these forms of resistance have a way of being invisible to our own psyche, because the protective mechanisms work better if we can't see them. So that's why so oftentimes people have blind spots, and that blind spot is a way of also keeping oneself safe. Like if I'm not aware of this way I'm holding myself back, I'm not going to try to change it.
Yeah, and I think that this definitely has symptoms, and you mentioned some of them already, such as, you're working as hard as you can or really maxing out, but not feeling like you're really getting anywhere, or there just seems to be this ceiling that you can't really get past. Are there any others that you're noticing that are really powerful symptoms of what's going on?
And yeah, there's definitely people, oftentimes people focus on, well, if I'm stuck, I'm like you said, I'm going to try to learn more, I'm going to try to work harder. And a trap. I want to use a more benign word, but I've been in it myself. But there is kind of the trap, or I'll call it the pattern of being in this cycle of personal development, which is I'm going to keep reading personal development books. I'm going to keep growing myself. And if I do that, I'll be able to then be the person who can do the thing. And there's some kernel of truth to that, but it doesn't necessarily lead to shifting that inner resistance. So I am a big advocate of, yes, for by all means, let's grow, let's step into more personal power. But I think trying to learn more or work harder can be another way of avoiding working with the resistance. And so that's kind of like when I'm talking to people and I'm giving talks to groups, that's kind of mistake number one. If someone's wanting to get past being stuck, getting past their resistance, mistake number one is just really working with their conscious mind to learn more or work more. And it actually can often aggravate that inner conflict because their resistance will dig in even more. So that's kind of like the first mistake, if you will, I think people make when they're trying to get unstuck. And so the second one is kind of related to the first one, which is only engaging with the situation with the conscious mind and not looking at what's happening at the unconscious level. Okay. So a lot of coaching happens at the conscious level: goals, action steps, accountability, homework, and so forth. There, of course, those are all valuable, but it's only half of the picture. And so when I'm training coaches and other practitioners in my tools, I'm giving people tools to look at and discover what's going on there in the unconscious mind. And so, for example, I had a person who came to me last year because she was really avoiding sales conversations and having sales with potential clients. And she didn't know why. And that's very common that people feel stuck in some area of their business, but they don't know why. And so I've developed this process called the inner resistance discovery method. And in 10 minutes or less, people can understand what's blocking them and why it's blocking them. It's very powerful. You still need to transform the resistance, but I believe that knowledge is power, and to know why you're stuck, because stuck is a symptom, procrastination is a symptom, sabotage is a symptom. There's always a deeper reason, there's always a deeper root cause. And so when you can have awareness of what that root cause is, then you can shift it. And so that's why I provide people with tools to get under, kind of like lift the rock and see what's under the rock. I think you said that earlier. And it reminds me of this great quote from Carl Jung. I have it right here. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate.
Wow. That is an extremely powerful statement. Until you make the unconscious conscious, you will, what did you say? You'll
It will direct your life and you will call it
call it
fate.
fate.
And so
Wow.
people often
And
say
there's
this,
so many other words that we would call that, like manifestation, and especially in our world where these are the words that we use, or attraction and all of that. And so and a lot of times we're trained to look at everything that's happening in our world to be a positive thing that's there to benefit us, even if it sucks. But what you're just saying here is like, there still could be something unconscious going on.
yeah.
We're choosing to see it as a positive thing, but it could be so much better, maybe, right?
Yeah, well, since you brought up the law of attraction, I think one of the big flaws of the law of attraction, and I've been to events with Esther Hicks and Abraham, and there's so many beautiful teachings there. But I think one of the biggest missing pieces there is, again, it's mostly focused on the conscious mind and conscious intention, right? And so Esther Hicks and Abraham talk about, having rockets of desire, being really clear on what your desire is and putting that out into the world. But what they don't talk about is, what if there's an unconscious part of you that wants the opposite of your desire, right? So you may have an unconscious desire to get into a loving relationship, but there might be a part of you that's afraid of getting close to somebody else. And so one of the things that's so often missing from the law of attraction is the fact that we have unconscious parts of us that may have counter intentions to our conscious intentions. And the law of attraction, for the most part, is often focused just on the conscious intentions and not what's happening at a deeper level. And so that's the third thing I wanted to mention today here, which is, and I used to be this way too when I first started coaching, which is I thought of these inner sort of blocks or these areas of resistance as something to avoid. Like, look, just kind of go around that and let's just go for the goals. And now when I see resistance come up with a client, and usually it happens in the first session or two, I see that as perhaps their greatest opportunity for growth. It's literally like this gateway for transformation, just presenting it right here. And so, one of the metaphors I often use with clients is, if you imagine having a treasure map, whatever you're running into, resistance, procrastination, sabotage, fear, I don't deserve it, and so forth, all the limiting beliefs that come up with people, I'm not enough, I'm not capable enough, I can't handle this, it's not safe, and so forth. To me, those are like an X on the treasure map saying, treasure is here. If you dig right here, this is where your greatest breakthrough lies. Okay. And so, to avoid that, whether you're the client or whether you're the practitioner working with the client, it's a real shame to avoid that, because that actually could be the greatest, the most life changing opportunity for that client. So for me, when I was able to shift that fear with the help of someone else, that changed my life in so many ways forever, right? Of course, it helped me become a better coach. It helped me make more money. It helped me create more impact. It helped me have more of a lifestyle I wanted. But just as a human being, or as a spiritual being, it created expansion like probably nothing else I had done in the previous 10 years.
Wow. I know we've only barely scratched the surface of this topic. I think we could probably do a full day workshop impromptu right now and still not have uncovered everything. But, just speaking to the audience here, if this sounds familiar, these patterns, and maybe there's something going on that is preventing you from making the biggest impact possible with the work that you're doing. And I know you want to make that big impact because that's why you're here. Then there's probably some next steps here. And Patrick is someone who can really guide you through what those are. So Patrick, I know you have tools and this is the work that you do. What's the next step in terms of connecting with you and maybe working with you to let's look under the hood and see what's going on?
Yeah, so I just want to encourage everyone listening to this. If this topic is speaking to you, there are tools to uncover and get really clear on what the inner resistance is. That's my blanket term for all the inner things that seem to stop us. And there are tools to transform it. And this can be done relatively quickly and in a relatively straightforward way. So, my encouragement, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for the clients you're working with, is to not avoid these things that come up, but see them as a gift for that person's transformation or for your own transformation and liberation. And so I have something for everybody today. So, one of the most common ways that I see business owners get stuck, entrepreneurs get stuck, is procrastination. I had a client who came to me and he had literally been wanting to launch his business for 4 years. Right? He'd been procrastinating on launching it for 4 years. And in one session, I helped him get stuck, and he had a workshop in the next month and got his first two clients after 4 years of avoiding that. So, procrastination is one of the biggest things that stops us. And so, I've created this free guide. It's called The Perfect Antidote to Procrastination, and you get two things. You get an ebook, but I think, and it kind of guides you on how to shift that procrastination, why it's even there in the first place. But even more valuable is you also get an hour-long recording of me taking a group and helping everybody in that group shift their procrastination energetically, getting to the root cause, discovering what the root cause, and then shifting the energy of the procrastination during that session. I had someone who told me that they've listened to that session, that recording 7 times, because every time they keep up-leveling themselves and keep releasing something inside. And so I want to give you the link to that. That's innercoach.com. That's my website, innercoach.com/ PG for procrastination guide. So innercoach.com/ PG. And in that guide, and then I highly recommend the session, I'll guide you through my procrastination breakthrough formula, and you'll have a big breakthrough if there's some sort of procrastination or other sort of avoidance. Go through the session, and I just would love for you to see what's possible and for you to get unleashed.
That sounds like a very powerful tool and guide. And if you would like to grab Patrick's guide right now, obviously you can go to the URL he just mentioned. If you're watching this on video, the link to that directly is right beneath this video. If you're listening to this on podcast, just look into the player on your phone and the link is there as well. Now, Patrick, we're almost out of time here, and I just again so many awesome insights that we've shared here today, or you've shared for sure. While I have you here, I mean, we mentioned personal growth. In a lot of us on this big impact journey are definitely connoisseurs of personal growth content. Books have been a big part of that journey for me. I just wanted to check in with you if you have a favorite or a must read recommendation, or maybe one that you're a newer one that you're reading now, because we like to leave our audience with some ideas of where they can go to learn next. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I brought one with me actually. So,
Mm.
this is a book I have on my nightstand. It's called The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. And it's really cool because there's a page for every day of the year. And so you
Mm.
can just flip it open to any page. You can either find today's date or just flip it open to a random page. And each page is basically just a big source of inspiration, small awakenings. And so it's great for inspiration. I like to read it before going to bed, or if there's a day where I'm just like, hey, in a little bit of a funk, it's a great source of inspiration.
That's a really powerful suggestion. I've never actually come across that book before. And that's why I like asking this question on this podcast, because I get to have exposure to all this new work. I'm going to go check that out. That sounds like one I should have on my night table as well. So I really appreciate that. And for anyone else who would like to grab it, I'll put the link beneath this video and in the podcast show notes there as well. Patrick, thank you so much. I am so grateful that we were able to reconnect and then also take the next steps of having you on this podcast. And I am looking forward to other work that we get to do together, maybe some events that we have coming up, and who knows. I know we're both guys that are open to, whatever serves us in our mission. And I want to speak to our audience for a second. I really hope that this has been inspirational for you. We refer to you as big on impact entrepreneurs, and I really want you to be able to make the biggest impact that you possibly can with your work. Now, time to time, there's going to be obstacles and challenges that just seem like we can't get around. And I want to encourage you, if you feel like that, reach out to Patrick, get his guide. That's a great first step. And remember that there's no obstacle too big to be overcome. And really, you might be just one collaboration away from the big breakthrough that's going to help your impact exponentially grow. And perhaps Patrick is that collaboration. And remember that, the only way to fail is to quit. So keep moving forward. We need what you do. And so, thank you to Patrick for being here. Thank you to you as our audience for being here, and keep moving forward. We'll see you on the next one, everybody. Thank you.